then I'll reach out.
The Avs are once again trying to win a second game in a row, and it's another matinee. Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Pregame show. We got Biggie and Rudo coming at you live as the Avs are taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. We talked with Charlie O'Connor from our sister site PHLY. We'll get to that in a little bit. First, for tonight, no official lines or anything yet, but expected to be the same lineup as last game. 1-5-0. You probably don't change a whole lot. However, you do have Trent Miner backing up with Scott Wedgwood out tonight. Undisclosed as to why, but it shouldn't affect the lineup directly today, at least.
No, I mean, again, I said in a little tidbit there, it's Groundhog Day, right? So let's rinse and repeat. Honestly, it was awesome last game. Everybody was into it, and I think you were the first one exclusively in the nation and the entire world about 3 weeks ago to say, oh yeah, I hate when they win one, they lose one. Then all of a sudden it kept going for about 3 weeks. It's been going on, right? As we see, it's win one, lose one, win one, lose one. So you got to get out of there. You got to get out of that habit. And at some point tonight, I keep saying tonight, this afternoon, there's no better way to jump in on an afternoon game. And, a team that's lost a couple in a row, that hasn't scored a goal in the few, but they made a trade too. Farabee and Frost, gone to, and then you got Kuzmenko and PHLY coming in. These guys will have a little bit of excitement. Usually Kuzmenko always does well when he's there for a little bit. And then it's usually afterwards that things dry up a little bit for him. I'm not sure. I don't know him. I'm not bashing him by any means. I know he's a decent player, and I think PHLY would be good for him because he's. I like that he's a little bit of a plug and a little bit of a hard worker and one of those guys. So it'll be fun to watch.
Well, the Avs may have caught a break there. As Charlie told me, it sounds like Kuzmenko's visa stuff will not be done until their game on Tuesday. So the Avs kind of getting a depleted Flyers team on this one. So there should be some room to take advantage of them.
There you go. And what about PHLY? It's weird, huh? Like visas work for different, Canada and Russia and PHLY. I wonder if he's. I mean, obviously, I don't know.
Not going to pretend to know how the visa system works.
No, I've dealt with them. So, Aaron does a great job here at the Avalanche. Aaron DeGraff done an outstanding job. So I know a little bit about it, but I was trying to remember. Like, obviously, it must be different. Different embassies. And so, all right, well, good enough, perfect. Then then it works out.
No excuses. No excuses for the Avs tonight. Got to go out and find a way to get it done. The Flyers are an interesting team this year. They're probably on the outside of the playoff picture. You have Tortorella, who's always a character. Realistically, when you're someone like Philadelphia and you look at where they are, and I know you don't care about standings, but is that locker room in a weird place right now, given the trade they just made, given that they're probably on the outside looking in, or is that a team that should still have their nose to the grindstone?
Well, a little bit of everything, right? A little bit of both. A little bit of it's always hard to lose, friends. Just look further than the Avalanche last week, right? So they lose a guy like Farabee, Frost, guys that were homegrown, right? Were they back-to-back picks, right? Like year after year, what is it, 17, 18, whatever. It's hard because you're losing friends, you're losing teammates, you're losing guys that you're trying to been part of that rebuild, so to speak, there in Philly, and clearly they as an organization felt differently, and decided to move on from those guys to create different opportunities. I think Danny talked about space now, cap space, right, being one of the reasons. but it's hard. But as you got to be a professional, and you got to be, and that's why it's so important to have good leaders and good older guys, and to make sure that everything stays the same in there, and everything. You're in the National Hockey League. There's decisions going to be made. It's not. It happens all the time. You're not the first ones. You're not the last ones to lose a teammate, a friend. But it certainly hasn't gone really well for them because they haven't scored a goal since the trade, right? So, so you can tell. I mean, somewhere, right? And then there's a reason sometimes teams are a little bit young, and when I say young in maturity, so maybe they are that type of team. And I think Charlie knows more than we do, but I'm saying. But I think it's important to remember you're in the National Hockey. That's why I've experienced it, but also I feel tonight Torts is going to get a little bit of a hold of his group tonight. I do figure that they're going to come out flying and be ready to go.
Well, hopefully the Avs do respond to that. Let's keep it rolling today. Let's get to your 3 keys here and what the Avs have to do to make it 2 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I just talked about it a little bit with Groundhog, right? Rinse and repeat, do it all over again. I mean, get involved, execute. It was pretty to watch the other day, from the power play to the back end to the 4 lines. Remember what Coach said. You got to treat this like playoffs, and you can't just do it for one game, the St. Louis game, and then today it falls on deaf ears. I think he said he's treating those next 5 games. So play a 4 out of 7 right now, even though it's only 5 games. Try to win 4, right? So you're up 1-0 in the series. Take a commanding lead and go win that second one today. Match the intensities number 2. They got shut out last games. I should have put an S there by Bond. 5-0, 3-0. This is their playoffs now. I mean, it's gonna be hard to make the playoffs. We all know that, but there's still a hope, a chance. No look further than the Montreal Canadiens in the East, where they went on that 10-game run. Whatever. Back to reality a little bit now, but they're gonna be there. They're gonna bring out the passion. You just got to make sure that you have just as much passion as the Flyers today. Number 3, show your depth. It was perfect matchup to roll 4 lines. We all know the other day what the line combinations were. They should be the same. I think expect to see everybody in the 10-plus minutes, right? That would be awesome to see that. Challenge yourselves and then expose the other team's depth even more so with what Rudo just said and Charlie said that Kuzmenko is probably not there. And, so you're looking at a team that's missing a few pieces. You got the home change in the sense that you got the last change. You got some of the best players in the world. So go expose their depth. Don't mess around. Bring a little bit of passion, a little bit of intensity, and let's make this 2 in a row.
All right. Look, it's game 54 of the season. There's only so many ways we can cook a pregame show, all right? I don't know how much more we can tell you about the Avs lineup that you don't already know. So that's why we bring in people like Charlie O'Connor from PHLY. We can learn a little bit about the Avs' opponent in this one. Let's hear what Charlie had to say about the Flyers and their season and where they're at right now.
Avalanche versus Flyers, DNVR versus PHLY. Maybe we're on the same team today. I don't know. We'll see. Pre-game show here with Charlie O'Connor. Thanks for joining us. Good flight out? Good time here in Denver?
I would say so, yeah. Got out late last night. I'll be here for 2 full days, I guess. So I'm very happy to be here at DNVR. So thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. It's always a good time getting to chat the other side of things. And, well, there's certainly things to talk about in Flyers land right now. The Mikko trade feels like months ago in the NHL, given the Flyers' big deal and now this JT Miller deal to the Rangers. But let's talk Flyers. Farabee and Frost out, Kuzmenko in. What did the Flyers get better? Is this a long-term solution? What are they doing here?
It seems like this is more of a long-term trade. We actually got a chance finally to speak with General Manager Danny Briere this morning, Saturday morning. Basically to get an idea of what his thinking was. And what he made clear was that this was more about making the decision that Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee were not part of the long-term plan than them specifically targeting Andrei Kuzmenko and Jacob Pelletier, who was the other player in the trade. They also got a 2nd-round pick for the upcoming draft and a 7th-round pick, but who cares about that? It does seem like, though, that this trade was more about getting out from under Joel Farabee's cap hit, because he has a $5 million cap hit, and for 3 more years past this one, he struggled for the last calendar year. It's a weird setup with him because He was a first-round pick of the Flyers back in 2018. He's shown flashes of brilliance. In the first two-thirds of last season, it really looked like he was coming into his own. He had 40 points in his first 50 games, was really impressive, especially at 5-on-5. Comes back after the All-Star break in early February, wasn't the same guy, and hasn't been the same guy since. So we're going on 82 games now of him struggling.
It's a full year.
And the Flyers basically looked at it as, if we can't get this guy going, and they apparently decided they were not going to be able to, that he was going to get passed in the depth chart, he wasn't going to be getting scoring minutes anymore, that $5 million for the next 3 seasons was going to be a hindrance on their cap. So this was a way for them to move him out. And Morgan Frost has been a guy who John Tortorella has really never particularly been sold on. His days long seem to be numbered. So this was more, I think, from their part, a way to move guys out that they don't think are part of the long-term plan.
Okay, so more focus on the guys out, despite some connections between Michkov and Kuzmenko there?
I think that's maybe part of it to a degree.
Okay.
Obviously, Kuzmenko is also a Russian, so bring him another Russian speaker in that locker. They played briefly on Scott St. Petersburg back in 2021, 2022, but I think this is a little bit more about facilitating the trade, because Kuzmenko's got this year left on his deal with a $5.5 million cap hit.
Yep.
And also, according to Briere today, they have liked what they've seen in terms of Kuzmenko's upside when he's been playing his best. It's a little bit of an audition. Give him a chance to see if he can show that he should be a candidate to be re-signed, and I guess we'll see.
Is there belief there? Is he a guy that John Tortorella can like? Because
it's a very good question.
You said it with Frost. I mean, even as an outsider, that it was pretty clear Frost was not the guy for that team.
Yeah, I think that there has been a lot of skepticism across the hockey world that Andrei Kuzmenko is going to be a Torts guy. But you never know. John Tortorella, sometimes there are guys where you don't think he's going to like them, and he likes them. I didn't think he was going to like Owen Tippett, because Owen Tippett, not the greatest defensive player, not the most intense personality. He loves Owen Tippett. I thought John Tortorella was going to love Sean Couturier. He scratched him last year after giving him the captaincy. So you truly can never predict what John Tortorella is going to think about a guy until he actually coaches the guy. Maybe he'll love Kuzmenko. Who knows?
What's the vibe around Tortorella in Philly at this point? Because I feel like the conversation every time somewhere hires him is, well, he's a really good coach, but he's always on a clock. It seems like everywhere he goes, the players turn on him after 2-3 years. You're coming up on that timeline in Philly. Is he still the guy?
Well, so I'm not sure if I quite agree that the players turn on him after 2 or 3 years. Like the most obvious example of that is Vancouver. That was a disaster. He didn't even make it through the one season before he got let go. Bad hire all around, terrible fit. There's other places he's lasted a pretty long time, and eventually he wears his welcome out, but every coach does. No coach lasts a really long time unless you're a coach who's won multiple Stanley Cups with
or Jared Bednar.
Or Jared Bednar. Well, he's won one. We'll give him that. He's earned himself a bit of a long leash with that win. Point being is that I don't necessarily think he's a coach that wears out his welcome faster than the average coach. It's just more of a spotlight's on him because he's John Tortorella. I do think, though, that there is a clock on him, not because of his personality, but because of his age. He's in his late 60s. He's not a young guy anymore. He straight up said when he took this job, this is the last head coaching job I'm going to have in my career. At some point, he is going to pull back. Now, his contract was a 4-year contract. This is year 3.
Yeah.
I am skeptical that he would go into next season on an expiring contract. So I would think the Flyers are going to make a decision this offseason. Do we want to keep him? And if we do, we want to keep him at least as head coach, maybe give him a 1-year, 2-year extension. If you don't, the thought process in Philly has always been he probably goes upstairs. He probably becomes a senior advisor, part of the front office, stays with the organization, but no longer is the head coach. That could be an option. So I think that's very much on the table for this offseason, but we'll see how it plays out.
Let's take a bigger picture at where the Flyers are. Obviously, last season, they missed the playoffs in the literal last second of the season. This year, they're kind of on the outside looking in at the moment. You just mentioned the trade, likely more about them moving pieces out than going for it. Realistically, are the Flyers moving in the right direction, or is this kind of a backstep for them?
Well, I think this trade, now whether they're moving in the right direction or not, I think that's a matter of opinion. You can agree or disagree with the moves they've made. At the very least, though, with this trade, they're moving in a direction again because they kind of didn't do much this offseason. They brought over Matvei Michkov, which was huge. They brought him over early. Big move, to be sure. But they already had him in the organization.
Yeah.
They didn't really make any moves or trades. They re-signed Eric Johnson. That was about it. Beyond that, they kind of just punted the offseason and said, all right, we're going to wait and see. Now they're moving guys out. So it seems like they might be getting back in the realm of now we're going to try to maybe not kick the rebuild into overdrive, but at least start making moves. And what Danny Briere said on Saturday morning was, this gives us cap flexibility. When a GM is talking about cap flexibility, the implication is he's going to use that cap flexibility at some point. Everybody knows the Flyers' biggest need is down the middle. They just traded a center in Morgan Frost. So it was already a need even with Frost. Now it's an even bigger need because they don't have one of their few quality centers. I don't know if they're going to make a trade at the deadline, but I do think this is setting up for them to potentially be active in the trade market for a center. I would say probably in that, 26 and younger age range.
So you started out the season with terrible goaltending and you need centers. This is a familiar tune in Avalanche territory. I know this story already. For the Flyers, though, the Avs solved their goaltending issues. Whether it works out or not, we'll see, but they got Blackwood. They signed him to a 5-year extension. Do the Flyers have a plan and goal going forward, or are they just figuring it out?
They have a plan, sort of. I think their plan is we have a ton of young goalies in the organization that we think all could potentially be the solution. So we're just going to kind of run through them and hope that one steps up. Now, right now, the goalies they have Sam Ersson, who is probably the one they like the most. He's had periods of play this season when he's been good. He's also been battling injury, which I think has hurt him. He might be nothing more than, a decent tandem goalie, a good backup, but they're going to find out. And that's what part of this year is about. They have Alexei Kolosov, who they brought over from Belarus, from the KHL this past year. His talent doesn't look like he's ready for the NHL. He's actually on this trip, but he was sent down to the AHL recently after spending most of the year with the team. I think there's something there. Now, whether they can pull it out of him over the long term, I don't know. They have Carson Bjarnason they took in the second round 2 years ago. They have Yegor Zavragin, who probably is the prospect they have who they like the most. He's a Russian, third-round pick in 2023, but he's not going to be coming over for another few years. So do they have a plan? I don't think they have a set plan and that they know exactly what it's going to be.
They've got options.
Their view is that one of these guys is going to step up, and if none of them step up, then they've got a problem. But they're hoping at least one does.
Do you guys figure out how to develop a goalie? Let us in on the secret, because it's been a while since the Avs have developed one in-house.
You're talking to someone who covers the Philadelphia Flyers. Goaltending has been a problem for the Philadelphia Flyers since the early 90s.
Just 25 years of it. I guess that's 30 years of this.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's been a hot minute for them.
A little bit.
When you're looking at, maybe not even necessarily the East, but your division, especially the last couple of years, it seems like it's just been an absolute arms race out East. How do the Flyers either keep up or build towards becoming one of those teams that's a heavyweight puncher in the East?
Well, I think their view is that if they stay on this rebuilding path, if they stockpile assets, if they make the right trades, make the right draft picks, that will do it. The big thing is that they believe they have their centerpiece in Matvei Michkov. Now, he's not anywhere close to being a finished product. John Tortorella butted heads with Michkov last game, sat him for the final, I guess the second half of the second period and the entire third. They were yelling at each other on the bench. So there's growing pains there, and we'll see how it plays out. But the Flyers believe, and Tortorella said it after the game, that one of the reasons why we are holding him to the standard we're holding him to is because we believe he's this special, because we want to make him into the special player we think he can be. So they believe they have their McKinnon. They think they have that guy, the guy who's going to be
just everything around it.
It's everything around that they need to find. Now, that comes into the whole cap flexibility thing. Can they go out and make a trade for a 24, 25-year-old center that can build with Michkov? Can they develop a few guys that are currently on their roster? The Tyson Forresters. They have Jet Luchenko they took with a first-round pick in 2024. Can those guys develop? And also, as you saw over this past week, guys like Frost and Farabee, which guys don't fit? And who do we have to move out because they're not going to be part of it? Look, can they keep up with the Carolinas? With Washington's having a great year. I don't know if that's going to hold for multiple years. It's a bit of a unique situation, but the Rangers are obviously going all in. The Devils have a ton of young talent. So it's going to be tough, but the Flyers believe that over time, building around Michkov, they can compete with those guys, and only time will tell if they're right.
We always do a crystal ball segment on the pregame show.
Okay.
Give me a final score for the game and a player you think is going to score a goal.
Okay. I'm going to go... Let's go 5-3 Avs.
Betting against yourselves. I like it.
I'm expecting that the Flyers are going to take a little jolt after losing Farabee and Frost. They were very popular guys in the room. I just think it's going to take them a little bit to kind of settle. Also, they're not getting the boost of the new guys because Kuzmenko and Peltier, they're not going to be ready yet because of the visa. They're hoping they're going to be in for Tuesday's game against the Utah Hockey Club. So I'm guessing that there's just going to be a little bit of, maybe a damper on their mood a bit, losing their buddies and not having the energy of having new guys. So I'm going to go 5-3. I'm going to say that, though, that Bobby Brink scores a goal. The former University of Denver product is going to score in his return back home.
All right, that'd be
not
fun.
home, but college home.
Close enough. Everywhere's home. Counts for me.
Sure.
I did want to, well, first off, we'll wrap up that. We'll get back to your regularly scheduled pregame show.
You can hear more from Charlie on tomorrow's show as we'll have another segment there. Some interesting conversations on tomorrow's show too. But for today, E, we got Charlie's prediction. Give me your prediction for the game and a goal scorer.
Well, I was just drinking my protein shake there. I'm going to go lots of firepower again for the Avalanche. I was close last game. They kind of took their foot off the throttle after 4, but I had predicted, if I remember, 6-1. So that was kind of, I'll give it to myself. I'm going for 6 today. I'm going 6. I'm going 6-1.
Okay.
I'm going 6-1 Avs. I feel good. I do believe they come out swinging and swinging often.
It's a matinee, so expect weirdness. That's where I'm at with it. I do think the Flyers are in a tough spot when it comes to their goal scoring. We talked about the forwards they're missing. They're also down Owen Tippett. They're running 11-7 today because they're just out of forwards on this road trip. So it might be tough for them to put the puck in the net. Yeah.
Dog days of January, February, trades. Being in the East, West, visas. Oh, God. Stomp on them.
You went up 1-6. I'll go down 1. I'll take the 4-0 game. How about that? We'll call it even.
All right.
Round it out super well with that.
Randy's close. I like my boy Randy. He's close to me right there. 5-1. I like it.
Give me a name.
It's good vibes. I'm going to ride the train right now. I took it last game. I'm taking it again because I'm so impressed by him. It's nothing to do. I'm not comparing or I'm not saying trying to show up the trade. Marty Natchez has been outstanding. I'm going with him again today. I feel good. I feel he's got wings. I feel he's happy to be here. So I'm going to take him, right shotgun with Nate and Kale. So I'm going to go Natchez again.
It's a good pick. I'm not going to argue against it. That's for sure. So hopefully that one does pan out. I think I'm feeling second line.
Good.
Pick a name. I'm going to pick Parsonen to put the puck in the back of the net. I'm going to go Parsonen to be my guy to finish one tonight. He had a good assist the other day. You like to see that second line keep it rolling beyond. It obviously Druin, fantastic the other day. Scored a goal with the second line, but also picked up some of those assists on the power play. So, or goals and assists, I should say. But yeah, that second line does feel like they've got a little bit of something going. So hopefully they can keep it rolling. Hopefully the Avs can keep their goal scoring rolling. They've often answered these 5-goal games with a game where they'll put up only 1 or 2. So they don't need to get to 5 necessarily again, but don't sleep on this one. Make sure you put the pucks in the back of the net you need to. Let's get to my bets to see how the Avs can get there and how you can make a little bit of money on tonight's game with the pregame picks with Bet365, where it's never ordinary. Did take the Avs to win and, in fact, cover. Then I took that Parsonen goal, and I also took Blackwood for the over on saves. I know the Avs at times can really limit shots against, but these matinees, it just feels like the shot totals seem to creep up at times. So we'll see. Obviously, you can bet on any number of other things. If you're feeling a certain vibe, get your bets in on Bet365 before puck drop, or bet live. Either way, you can bet on the Avs. You can bet on other hockey games. You can bet on other sports entirely. Whatever it is you're feeling, do it with Bet365. And of course, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. When you look at these two teams, in theory, the Avs are a much higher puck possession team. They carry it across the blue line a lot more than Philly, who often like to play a forecheck style and get in deep, do that hard work. How do you strike that balance? Should the Avs be able to effectively get across the blue line against Philly tonight, or do they maybe have to get away from that, dump in pucks and chase a little bit harder, as you sometimes feel like the Avs don't do enough of?
You know what I always say, right? Play the game that's in front of you. At the end of the day, I do believe when you are the Avalanche, there's not one team in the NHL that you should worry about, in a sense that it should be about, we worry about ourselves. We worry about our game. So if the Avs do their game, and all of a sudden you see that the neutral zone's clogged up, and, don't be stubborn. I said that the other day. I'll say it again. Don't be stubborn. Sometimes you might have to chip it in. You might have to lay it soft in an open area. And what does that do? It makes you, it just makes them respect that you're going to do that. It makes them respect that, they might have to worry about your speed. So if you open it up like that a couple times, sometimes they will back up, gives you a little bit more of a bigger gap, so to speak. And guys like Natchez, McKinnon, Makar, guys that can carry a puck. Don't sleep on Parsonen, too. I've seen him. He's not bad carrying the puck. He's smart. He's got some confidence. And by the way, Bet365 plus 600 for a goal. That's a pretty good bet there, by the way. I like your choice there. I might have to look back right now and do it in those next 5 minutes. But so, again, don't be stubborn with your game, but play your game. Don't play the Philadelphia Flyers game. They are not up to snuff with you in the sense that I'm talking about pure quality of players. It's not close. And there's a team that's searching right now for themselves a little bit. And the Avalanche, this is a team that you need to get on the run. In order to go on the run, don't be stubborn. Play your game, play up to your potential, and just go knock them dead.
There you go. Sometimes hockey's not a complicated sport, man. Sometimes you just got to go out there, do the hard work, and you'll win. The Avs are certainly capable. They do have to go out and perform and do it. If nothing else, get up so you can beat Eric Johnson, because everyone loves him, and the Avs got to show him that they're still a good hockey team. I don't know how it's getting there. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Look, the Avs, I think this stretch of schedule is interesting because, as Bednar said, as you've talked about, they should treat it like a playoff series. But also, realistically, looking at some of the teams they get to play here, they should be able to feel pretty good about themselves if they play up to their ability, right? This should be a stretch of hockey where you can take it into the break and feel good about the Colorado Avalanche.
Absolutely. It starts with today. That's an Eastern team, obviously, Philly. But then you go into those last three games, a 3-4 in Western Canada. Obviously, a lot of brouhaha with the Vancouver Canucks the last few weeks or so. Obviously, the last few days with that Miller trade. Then you got the always entertaining matchups between Edmonton and Colorado, and then Calgary's right there in the thick of it, obviously. So that's going to make it for 3 fun. You're talking about playoff hockey that Bednar alluded to before the last game. What is exactly falling into it? You know what I mean? And they're teams that you should beat and you can beat. When I say should is because you should be able to beat anybody at the Avalanche. And if everything is put together from goaltending to power, the special teams to those teams rolling, you should be able to get in there and give it your best effort and hopefully be on the right side of things. And again, it starts today. Like you said, Philly's in town. This is an Eastern team, but it's a team that's struggling, that's looking for answers right now. Don't give them any. Take them away from them.
Yep. Perfect way to put it. We're going to wrap up our pregame show there. We do have a watch along coming your way. If that's not your thing, at very least, tune into the postgame show where we'll break it all down for you. This has been the DNVR Avalanche pregame show presented by Coors Light.
We all silly like the mayor.